let's start the show.
This one goes out to Momo. Don't say I didn't do anything for you, huh? You know, it's very rare where I'll decide to review a game that's still in early access. Primarily because A, I've spent the past 15 plus years trying to keep my head above the poverty line, and B, because a lot of my critiques can be waved away with the fact that it's not the full complete game. You can make the argument that a lot of games get stuck on permanent early access never to be in a state where it's considered good enough for the general public. Today's video is going to be an experiment. I'm going to give a less harsh review of Dead as Disco, but also knowing that when I do eventually get my hands on the full version, that there's going to be a much more serious analytical breakdown as a whole. Without further ado, here's my review of Dead as Disco. Dead as Disco is a rhythm beat-em-up from Brain Jar Games Incorporated, released onto Steam by May 5th, 2026. If you're familiar with the combat of the Batman Arkham games, Sifu, Insomniac Spider-Man, or Hi-Fi Rush, you'll be very familiar with the well-established combat mechanics. Dead as Disco tells the story of Charlie Disco, the drummer for a band that I think is also called Dead as Disco? Essentially, Charlie died under mysterious circumstances. On the 10-year anniversary of his passing, Charlie makes a deal with the devil to get answers. Or at least, that's what I can gather. In my defense, Charlie himself doesn't realize what's going on until the tutorial. So far his quest involves beating up his former bandmates. Charlie believes his old crew turned their back on him and then used his death to become stars in the music industry. Look, this game is still in early access, so I'll be easy on it. But I'd like it if Charlie understood why he'd sell his soul to the devil. It's a pretty big decision, so it'd be good storytelling if Charlie knew and was motivated about his quest. You can still provide exposition, but change the delivery and tone of the scene. At the time of my original gameplay, Dead as Disco has roughly 4 levels. Each level has their own unique feel and flair. At its core though, these levels follow the same formula. Number 1, face a mob of low-level enemies. Number 2, throw more enemies onto the pile, but include an environmental hazard to change it up. And number 3, a boss fight with multiple phases. Now, I don't have a problem with that formula. It kind of reminds me of Sifu, to be honest. The problem with Dead as Disco is there isn't a small gradual difficulty progression like Sifu. In this game, you dive headfirst into the very deep end. This is fine when you have the ability to upgrade your character, but if it's your very first attempt, you're going to die a lot since your experience points don't bank until you actually beat the level. Luckily, the game does have somewhat of a checkpoint system, however, it's still a slog to get there. At the time of my writing, I haven't unlocked all of the upgrades for Charlie, but just being able to take more damage and dish it out can really make the game more bearable. Once you finish a level, you return to your main base, the Encore Bar, where you'll be joined by the bandmates you just mercilessly beat. During the course of my playthrough, I couldn't help but ask, did I just technically kill my bandmates? What is the Encore? Is this kinda like Purgatory? Also, how the hell can Charlie get into so many fights in just one night? Who are we, John Wick? I'm sure this is going to be smoothed over when Dead as Disco gets its full release, but I actually kinda like the idea of spending points to renovate the Encore Bar. Some of your former bandmates give you new combat moves which can possibly change your game up. However, me personally, I didn't really use a lot of the new moves outside of takedowns and using the drumsticks as weapons. From a level design perspective, I enjoyed how each level had their own unique feel. When you're in Prophet's level, you'll be fighting in the streets, dodging cars, and eventually inside a club that becomes a stadium. Hemlock is a subway platform to eventually fighting inside the subway until you fight in the wreckage of the smashed subway car. The levels are visually beautiful and I dig it. At the end of the day, what Dead as Disco needs to do is make sure that the connective tissue is there so that it all flows together. Give us reasons to use these new moves. Give us the ability to bail out of a mission and take what we've earned to upgrade ourselves. And while we're brainstorming, what are you going to do to make sure that the audience wants to come back and replay a level? Half of the challenge of Sifu was making it to the ending, but once I beat the main story, I never played it again. Let's talk about controls. I played this on an Xbox controller. The A button allows you to dodge attacks, the Y button is your typical counter, and the X button is your standard strike. The B button is your finishing attack. If you pepper an enemy with various attacks, basically, you use the finishing strike to wreck them. If you press the left trigger button, then you can use specialty attacks such as your drumsticks and other moves that you pick up from vanquished bosses. When you start destroying rooms of enemies, you'll build up a meter which gives you a takedown attack. Takedown attacks instantly kill non-boss enemies and do a decent amount of damage to bosses. If you can time it well, you can even chain a takedown with the boss's stun meter. It's free real estate. Now, the major hook is your attacks will be more effective if you are attacking in time with the background music playing. As someone who loved Hi-Fi Rush, I am a huge fan of this. It would be awesome if there was an environmental cue to help keep players on time, but for what it is, it's fine. We'll see how I feel in a few months, though. As I mentioned, this game is still being worked on. Once you plowed through the 4 levels, you don't really have much else besides the Endless Disco mode. Basically, you can play all the available songs in the game. You keep fighting until each track ends. If you're familiar with the Dead as Disco demo, then you will already be familiar with this mode. One of the awesome parts of the Endless Disco mode is the ability to import your own custom songs. As the lead singer of alternative rock band Camel Kimono, it really made me smile being able to destroy waves of enemies to one of my own songs. Just remember to set the beats per minute and also when the song begins and ends. Otherwise, the parts will not sync up as well as they should. Dead as Disco is a good start for now. The gameplay loop is fine, the level design is dope, and I'm curious to see what it does next. But, little nitpick here, I'd like to see the cutscenes done in a similar style to the in-game engine versus using an animation style that feels off. It's somewhat what I disliked about Hi-Fi Rush. The animated cutscenes clashed and really took me out of the experience. But for the time being, this is a good start. Let's see where it goes. Either way, my name is Matthew Tyler DeLeo, better known as SonicMTD. Arigato gozaimasu, and later days. This video was proudly supported by Unsung Heroes of Patreon.